And that's a great joke. Come on, that's a good one. That's worth the video click alone, just that. Evening all, welcome back to Eve. It's a strange feeling. I just undocked. What is this strange and unusual feeling in me? Oh, I'm playing the game. We're going to go and have a look at the JITA market because, to be honest, and I can't even remember how to play the game. We're going to go and have a look at the fun, exciting things that I used to make money on. There you go. I literally have to set destination because I can't remember where I'm going. Oh my days! This is like, it's so funny because I have stints in this game where I play it to like within it an inch of my life. And I'm now back to a point where I'm like, yeah, I've not played it for a while. I've been playing things like Factorio, etc. And it's nice to come back. There is something I mean, if you've ever taken a break from Eve, you know what I'm on about. It's actually quite a nice thing to come back because you kind of, the remembering of the familiarity is a wonderful feeling. You know, the muscle memory returns. What I'm going to do in this video, if we continue our Beyond Trillionaire and we talk about what the next kind of step is for me, blueprints are the first thing we talked about. So manufacturing and all of that good stuff. It's pretty much the backbone of the game. There is the second part though, which to me is very much the marketing, let's say the business side of it, because you can actually save yourself a whole lot of bother and never make a thing in your life in this whole game. You can actually just basically sit in a market hub, preferably JITA, and just buy and sell everything that you ever need. I'm just remembering if I do, is it D? No. Yes, it is D. Oh my days, this is so bad. I mean, literally, the last time I was doing this, I think I was jumping 12 Tengus towards a Christmas mission, drunk off my ass. But there we go, fun times. So I think if we look at kind of the market manipulation and the market, I guess it's not manipulation even, it's just looking at the marketing of the game. It's a very interesting part of the game actually, and I actually I would say I made quite a bit of ISK from this. Right, so I actually have a Insta doc. Let's see. Doc Insta, I think it's that one. Who knows? Crazy times. Last time I was here, I think somebody tried to gank me as well. Fun. So with JITA, I think it's an interesting place because obviously it's just the market here is ridiculous. And yes, there is a fair bit in this video of now looking at stuff, but I'm going to give you kind of the benefit of my experience, if you like, a little bit here, because obviously in making lots of these modules and ships, etc., you get quite used to spotting the price of things. And we'll go and have a quick look at that now, because I am a firm believer that actually if you are smart, you can make quite a bit of ISK never even undocking. And I know there's a lot of people who talk about, oh, I'm a trillionaire because I did it in JITA undocked or JITA docked. Yes, I understand that, and I can totally agree that there's going to be an awful lot of people that have made, you know, insane amounts of ISK from buying and selling. And I think let's talk about the basics. So if we start right at the very, very front, I'm just going to start with two modules that I have always sold. And it's because I generally make them that I would always, you know, sell them to a relatively okay profit. And again, it depends. So this is where I think the how far you go into this denotes how much you can do here, because there is a capacity. So let's talk about capacity first. So if I kind of take expanded cargo holds 2, I mean, I would make 1,000 a day of these things, more in fact, because they were like by far they were very easy to invent, they were very easy to make, and then putting them on the market here, they just sold. And it was always one of those things that I was genuinely quite impressed with. So if we look at just the raw data, you can, I mean, my goodness, they're going for a huge amount of this compared to what I remember them. I mean, I have not done this in 6 months, but wow. And you can see here, they're being sold in quite healthy numbers. You know, the buy orders for them are pretty healthy as well. So there's lots here for buy orders. I'm going to guess the margin is not particularly good. So this is where, again, you've got to sort of balance it a bit. But if you look at just, I mean, look at that. So how many in one day sold there? Almost 10,000. So the reality of this is that, you know, they are a pretty solid starting module. Not big ISK, but it's the kind of thing that, again, if you're someone who just rushes into this, you come to JITA, you're all excited, you've got all these lovely modules in your pocket, and you want to make some ISK so you can nip to the bar and then enjoy all of the things the bar has for you later, because you just want to quickly sell, then you're going to do that. So here, look, great example. People have put these on as sell orders incorrectly. So you can see in fact, I'm going to buy them because that's actually easy ISK. It's like straight off, I'm going to make some ISK here. So I've just bought them because that means the starting market now is pretty much good to go. So, there with 395 is what you're looking at there. So quite a healthy margin. One of the things I look for is the gap between the buy order versus the sell order, because that tends to denote where people are in the process. So in this particular example, you can see there's some quite competitive some buying going on here, which is interesting. But if you look at this, the supply here, so this is a great module to come and sell right now, because you're going to make some good ISK here, because again, it does look as if people are selling and buying in quite healthy numbers. So yeah, I think when you look at just a starter for 10, that's a really good one. But let me show you where I made an unbelievable amount of ISK, and by unbelievable I mean like billions billions of ISKs. It's those stupid Metanox, what's it, I've spelt it wrong, what are they called, moon miner something Metanox moon drill, right? So these were new when I was last playing. And now I can see the spread is not as good. In fact, no, it's actually okay. So let's see, what's the quantity that's being sold? So 25, 20, sort of 20 a day, I'd say, is the average. So looking at this with my kind of industrial brain on, I want to do this right now, actually. I would be placing a buy order a day for one. Because after taxes, I guarantee you, if I bought one for, let's say, 705 mil, 700, try and get my brain right, 705 million ISKs, then I would immediately repost it up here, because you just know that some alliance douche is going to come along and not want to wait for the buy order to complete. They'll just want to buy it now. So this is what you're looking for. I mean, again, this is a wonderful example, actually, because I'm going to get my calculator now, because what's the margin on that? That's pretty good. That's better than when I was doing it before, because I was looking to do 1, 2 or 3 a day. And when I first started doing it, I actually did it quite aggressively. I think I was buying 5 a day. So that's 500 million. So straight off the bat, you're talking, pretty good numbers. So what have we got? 8, 3. This is going to be the most boring video you've ever seen if you don't like ISK. So let's say 705. So after taxes, I mean, let's say before taxes, you're talking 129 million ISK per one. Now that's a lot of ISK to tie up, but again, the assumption here is that 2 billion is not going to be too much for you. So again, I'm sorry, my brothers, but it shows that if you've got money, it's very easy to make money. And I'm afraid this is a real life thing, that if you've got money, you can do this. Let me tell you a quick story very, very quickly, because it did make me smile. You may notice, now I'm not going to talk about Mr. Trump, the president, because I have no views, positive or negative, because I am a YouTuber and I have to be very impartial. So I genuinely don't have any views about most things when it comes to that. But he did a very clever thing. Well, clever is an underline word. He criticized the Intel CEO recently. So Intel is a really good example of a stock that has just tanked big time, right? And it's been like that for about, in fact, I'm just going to go and bring it up, Intel, because this has absolutely everything to do with Eve share price. So let me just reject all the optional cookies and let me see the chart. So here we go. So this is a wonderful example of, ignore all my things, you don't want to know what they are. Let's see. So if I go to, let's go to 3 years, for example. So this is the problem. So Intel was a very high performing stock. Now for about the last, I don't know, that's like I'd say about a year or two, it's been in the toilet, right? So Mr. Trump has done a very clever thing by criticizing the CEO of Intel, because an awful lot of rich people have had their money tied up in Intel, because a lot of people would buy the top tech stocks, right? And things like Google, Tesla, Alphabet rather, Apple, Disney, these are kind of the big stocks, right? So there's kind of like, it's the Warren Buffett. If you've ever read up on things like this, Warren Buffett always invested in certain businesses, and they were your atypical things like, big tech and things like Disney and so on. So, and this is a good example of this, because what effectively you're seeing here is a fascinating split between like what it's currently being sold as a buy order versus what it's being sold for as a sell order. And what I find really interesting is the amount of people that make these Metanox moon drills that just sell to the buy order. So that's kind of in summary why I kind of went on some weird rambling story. But it's interesting, because what that tells me is there's a lot of people like me out there that are like, right, I need to start making the next moon drill, because they'll have just a production line of these. So it's like with my Titans, you don't want necessarily to wait for the large number here, you want to sell. But as a buyer, this is golden for you, because as long as you can kind of have a competitive buy order, and again, the assumption here is that they're shifting like 20 a day, so probably all of these will sell, will fill, as well as things sell up here. But what it basically means is you're going to have a very profitable item there. So there you go. That made me billions and billions of ISK for about 6 months. Last time I played was these stupid moon drills, basically just selling because people were, basically needed them, and they came in. Obviously when they came in there was a huge rush and we needed them, but what's weird is I come back 6 months later, it's still the same. In fact, it's even better now. So I wonder if supply is less than I don't know, demand, who knows. So very interesting. So that's a really good example there. Let's have a look at again some of the other things they used to do was cap recharger 2s. These used to be brilliant, they're not very good now. And let's just have a look at the thing. So you can see pretty poor actually. If I just go all the way, I don't know how, what does that show me to? So September. Okay, so it's about a year then, obviously. So again, it's showing me when I was playing around here. So December, this is last time I was doing this. I recall a kind of spike, but again, it built. And then what's interesting is something must have changed, because then look at this. So somebody tried to do probably a market manipulation there. Certainly there, I think they have. So it's pushed the price up. But again, for me, cat recharges were always a solid, stable thing. I made them and sold them quite comfortably. But again, you can see here, generally the sell orders reflect the minimum mineral price with no profit baked in. Because some people just will sell it. If you have the BPO for this, which again, like 3 people probably do, they've just made their entire Eve careers off this because they don't have the hit that Invention does. But, another good example. So again, what's the spread on this? 100K. Pretty good. That's, again, the market's interesting, because last time I looked at this, it was pretty rubbish. Things like cat batteries, large, medium, small, they all did quite well. So in terms of kind of buying and selling, I would say they're worth a go. But again, don't go too hard on this. There are certain skills that you obviously need, as I go to the wrong one, that you basically need. I don't have it on this character. I did everything on an alt. But I think when you start kind of looking at, doing this, I would just, make sure, I think trade 5 is an absolute must. I think there is also, is it procurement or retail? I forget. No, I think that, again, because you're going to be doing lots of them, you need really all of these skills. But to be honest, you could just dump, I've got 1.6 million skills. I could just dump it in here and take most things to level 4. That's probably all you need. If you want to supercharge it, go for it, but you don't necessarily need to. So I think generally, it's funny really, because all the time I was here doing this, I never spelled apocalypse wrong. That's a good start. I never bothered with battleships and ships like that. Yet, no, see, they're still not there. So, interestingly, there's really no order. There's no sort of market here for certain ships. So I'm guessing this is just because I don't know, because I don't play every day. But apocalypse, I guess, is not fit of the month. I think the Armageddons were quite good at one point, but I'm guessing it's a bit healthier there. But look at the spread. The spread is like 10 million. Why on earth would you bother? And I think that's because the construction of them is a bit simple. It's all relatively straightforward. Whereas things like the moon drills, that's not easy. Let's have a quick look at another thing I looked at, which was structures. Oh God, there we go. Structures, engineering complexes. So I used to buy an awful lot of no, it wasn't that one. Is it that one? Do you know what? It's been so long. Oh yeah, the Retarus. These used to be quite a profitable thing to do. Oh, that's interesting. They've gone up a bit. Wonder why, but I used to buy and sell them, as well as Asbels. I used to just, because again, you can see here the sort of, the in the station it's 4.6 billion. To buy is 5.6 billion. So already you've got a billion ISK there. But again, that requires more risk to be tied up again. So I only had like one a week, maybe two. And you would just place a buy order down here somewhere. Again, that will fill. And let's just look at the quantity being sold. It's low, so it's only a couple a day, but again, it's not insignificant. So a little bit of luck. I remember I had a particular buy order where I was a bit drunk, and I clicked 3. So I put a buy order up for 3 at some price. Let's say 4.6, because I can't remember what it was. And it just filled within 20 minutes, and I was like, oh damn, I didn't really want to do that, but I guess I do. So then I thought, well, that's it. I'm now lumbered with 3 Asbels for 6 months. I put them up at a billion profit each, and they all sold within about an hour. It's weird. That's the market for you. I like to think of that as just an incredibly lucky, fortuitous thing. But there we go. So, stations are a bit of a risky one. If you're a let's say a trillionaire, or on your way to being a trillionaire, totally trade in stations, because it is profitable, but you just tie up so much ISK. I mean, think about that. That's like 15 billion that was not buying things like modules, because I think the common thing that most people are going to be buying is modules. So if I just kind of go through the obvious ones, so in all of the drone stuff, don't bother with any of it. Just bother with is it drone damage? I think it was that one, the drone damage. Again, the spread here is pretty rubbish. That's not very good. It's 100 mil. It's about 10%. So again, it all comes down to that percentage. If you're not very good at maths, don't worry doing this. You'll be good at maths once you're done. I met people when I was a student many years ago in the wonderful and utopia hanging gardens of Coventry. Basically, I worked in a pub that the landlord could tell you the profit on every single pint that he pulled. He just, he calculated it and worked it out in his head. He knew it. And he always impressed us. And it's only years later that I realized he was absolutely lying. He was making up a load of nonsense numbers and just spurting them out to look impressive. It's a bit pirate software sort of level. So anyway, there we go. So let's move on. So things like status web fires, these always do very well. In fact, I would say these probably were my go-to module, because relatively easy to produce and invent, and generally they sell insanely. So this was 1,000 a day on average. Let's say about 800 a day on average. So the market moves very quickly on that. Now, really interestingly, guns never did. Guns were the one area that, for some reason, unless you're selling small, medium and large never really made much profit. They were much more of an investment. So I'll give you an example. So let's go to large. Let's just, not tachyons, because no one uses them, but mega beam laser. Someone is now typing into the comments, I use tachyon beam laser 2s. You don't know what you're talking about. And you're not wrong, I don't. But mega beam laser 2s, a good example of something I would make. They had okay profit. So let's have a look. So again, you see the cost of them though is pretty high, but you can see there's quite a healthy buyer's market. But in terms of seller, again, it's pretty cutthroat. I can see this is there's a good spread there. It's about 1 million ISK per gun, but the amount of resources and invention and moon goop that it ties up, I don't think large guns are worth it. I think medium is where, generally I never used to make them because I just think they were a bit of a pain. And again, it's about volume. If you've got one character doing all of this, then large guns are probably good, because you can just, focus on that as your project. because I had what? I mean, I would say about 15 accounts. So that's probably 300 build slots potentially, I think, because most counts had 2 characters on them, blah, 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 blah. And it just meant that basically, you know, volume was the thing. So you're kind of looking to, it's a bit like I was in the videos I've done previously. Go and watch them if you've never seen them. Go and see the process. But I would basically create things just en masse and then hold on to them. If they didn't sell, or if I wasn't comfortable with what they were selling for because the market suddenly disappeared, then I just wouldn't sell them. And actually that worked quite well for me. So I'll give you an example of this actually. So small 280s, I remember something happened to the market. I couldn't tell you what. I think it was something like around here. Suddenly the market just went ridiculous or something. But I held on to them, and I had made, I think I worked out on Eve Tycoon, I'd made them for something like, I want to say 600 a unit, and I had like 1,000 of them. And I just held on to them with a view that when the market then cleared, it suddenly, the demand came back. I was then able to just drip feed them. But again, it was frustrating. So as a seller, it's really annoying. This is where, you know, the instant quick fix of the Asbel example, it's very rare. A lot of the time you're logging into the game and you're a bit frustrated to see that things haven't sold. And the temptation there is to minus 0.1 ISK from everything. And you can do that. There's no issue with you doing that. But it does then, firstly, it's work, number one, and who wants to do work? And number two, it can be a bit frustrating because you feel you get into a bit of market foo, bit of market PvP with some dude that's on the other keyboard, you know, through the interwebs. And you get angry at them because you're like, dude, why don't you F off and let me sell my effing things? But the problem with that is don't be that person, because, you know, never make an emotive decision in business, ever. I've seen people do this. Like I work with a guy whose name, literally, we've called him this, Tiny Tony. And he worked in, let's say, an advertising agency, but he was in the real estate part. And we used to go and see him, his client, actually. We should have been much nicer to them than we were. But we went to go see him all the time. And we obviously didn't call him Tiny Tony because, yeah, he would go nuts and punch our kneecaps. And that's a great joke. Come on, that's a good one. That's worth the video click alone, just there. But basically, he got so angry doing his just day-to-day life that he had to put a filter on his emails of 2 hours. So he would rage spam an email, click send, and then storm off and go and have a cigarette outside. But when he came back in, he'd then delete the email. He was one of those people, and the city's full of those kind of people. I used to call them knobheads. But basically, that's a good example of the kind of thing that you can end up doing in this if you get angry. So don't do that. Don't see your other, whoever posted this sell order, leave them to it. Let them do what they're going to do, because you focus on your business. And that's the biggest bit of advice I can offer you in this video. Let's have a look now at some of the other things that I used to sell. I'll probably do a list. In fact, very, very interestingly, well, not interesting at all to many people, I have lived in a little village in the middle of God knows where Shire for a long time. And I was overjoyed to see the BT Openreach vans digging up the road in front of me. I was sat in traffic and I was about to rage and, sort of yell at them and insult their mother's patronage in some format, until I realized, hang on, that means we're getting fiber. So at some point next week, which is around, 13th, 14th, 15th of August, I'm going to get fiber broadband, which is very big for me, because firstly, whenever I do any of these stupid videos, they take 5 to 6 hours to upload to YouTube each time. I usually do it overnight. It's ridiculous. And secondly, that means I can now maybe do a bit of streaming. Now, I'm not going to stream extensively, but one of the things I really do want to do is some of the market work that I used to do live, so people can see it. Because I think, and again, we'll put the video on YouTube, so don't have to sit up and watch me at my weird moon time whenever I play. But I just think that's interesting, because I do get asked quite a lot of questions of, can you show me? Can you go through the process and explain to me invention? And I'm like, well, I could try, or I think it's probably easier just to show. So I think probably we're going to do a bit of that. We'll do a bit of the ISK generation. Anyway, this video is long enough already. Let me summarize. Market production is one thing. Buying things and selling them is another. And I think you can marry the two in a beautiful union of ISK generation, so that you wake up and then every morning the golden pot of ISK pours over your face. And I think that's very possible. So I think every character that you have, or rather, every, let's say, set of characters you have, create a trader. If you don't have that, start thinking about that. And again, it's you don't need to watch 20 videos to understand what that means. Read the description and just create them. And you start to get into things like Tycoon, so you can put hundreds of orders in. If I remember rightly, I think there's only a few skills that kind of help with the tax. I think that's more standings. But anyway, yeah, there we go. So remote buy orders, kind of useful. Marketing, again, I don't think you need that. I think it's more things like this. Broker relations, that's quite useful. So I would say have a go, and against advanced broker relations, again, quite useful. But generally it's things like trade, it's things like that. That's really the big thing. I can't remember what day trading was, but each level of the skill, the range can be ordered. I mean, if you can, do it on an alt and leave that alt in JITA or your market hub of choice, because that's the only way to really do it safely. Personally, that's my view, but you can change it. But the idea is that's a character you log in, you leave them sat at the market. You can then have, I used to have a quick bar loaded and filled with beautiful, lovely links. And they are, it's because it's the wrong account. What am I talking about? That's age, that is. But basically what you do is you then start to build a series of little kind of things that generally sell well. Warp scramblers is another one. These always sold in quite high volumes. Look at that, about what? 1,500 average, maybe a bit higher than that actually, but it's pretty good. And again, the spread on them, not great. It was better, but in most cases, if you had, let's say, 100 of them to sell, you'd be making quite a bit of this. You mean 10 million. That's pretty good. And if you take that as one module of many, it just starts to roll. And I think again, that's probably one of the sort of things that I do find is a lot of people have a very sort of, that's only 10 million ISK, but that's 10 million ISK for no work that you could do across, let's say, 100 modules. So it's 100 million. Very quickly it's a billion. Very quickly it adds up. And I think, again, that's the biggest mistake people make, is they think, I'm not doing that because that's only this. But it's like, but that could be, let's say, 100k ISK every hour for the next 4 months. Think about how that adds up. It starts to become an interesting. I think you have to understand the margins, and it becomes quite an interesting thing. But we'll continue this probably in a live stream at some point, or at least a conversation. And probably I'll start doing these in the Discord. So if you're not in our Discord, Squad B Discord, please join it, because I don't necessarily know what I'm doing when it comes to streaming, but I do know how to do it in Discord. So we'll probably start there. But so join the Discord. You don't have to. I mean, we don't talk a lot. You can just join it and then basically lurk. That's fine. But I think I am going to start looking at some of these things, because I can see the market has recovered from when I last did it, which makes me wonder, did I damage it? Obviously, I don't think I could possibly do that as one player, but it does make me smile to think that maybe I did. But I can see that there's definitely some, the Metanox moon mining drills, I think definitely they're worth a bit of a punt. But it all comes down to how much ISK do you have. Again, one of the things I think a lot of people, I know I used to hear a lot of people trading was the Plex, but I guess I could still trade it from the looks of it. Looks okay to do that. So maybe that's something as well. Tended not to do ammunition because it was always a bit low quality, low price. Drones, just brilliant. Absolutely do drones, because they always seem to be a good thing. But anyway, there we go. That's enough whiffle waffle from me. Hopefully that has been of use to you. Post in the comments if there's any questions. But honestly, I totally think this is an underrated way to make relatively good ISK, is just to buy things and sell them and have time as your secret weapon. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.